Hey guys, this is just a video to explain the rules and basic rating system for any reviews I'll be doing on this channel. When I talk about the rating system and some of the rules, I'll be referring to all products as games just in this video because it's much simpler for me just to refer to everything as a game. But I will also be trying to review different things like TV shows, animes, maybe albums, just anything I find worth reviewing. So let's jump right into it. First, we're going to start with rating system. The rating system I'm going to be using for the reviews here. I'm going to be using a rating system of 1 through 10 with intervals of 0.5. So 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, stuff like that. I'll explain what all the ratings mean. A 10 is a game that I consider the pinnacle of a game. It's groundbreaking. It's innovative, it's amazing, there's just really nothing you can dock it for. This game will be anywhere from perfect to slightly less than perfect. It might have a couple tiny flaws, but it's nothing that will break or even hinder an experience in the slightest. This game cannot be missed. It's perfect. It's a perfect score. You can't miss it, no matter what you're into. A 9 denotes a score for a game that is amazing. It doesn't quite reach perfection or flawlessness, but it's still very good. It's very innovative, very groundbreaking. It's a very nice game. There's not much bad you could say about it. There might be a couple flaws to the game, but they won't hinder the gameplay at all. The game, for the most part, is just spotless and fantastic. Should not be missed. Maybe a few people won't pick it up, but it should not be missed if it's a 9. 8. 8 is a great game. I would consider it great. It's a very solid outing. It does some innovative things, but there's a couple flaws that might hinder the game experience a tiny bit. Nothing that will really frustrate you or annoy you too much, but it's enough to kind of make you go, okay, there's a few people who won't like some of the stuff they did in here. It'll be a very innovative game, it'll be a very fun game, but it won't do much more than that. It'll just be very solid. A 7 denotes a game that is very good. It's not great, it's not amazing, but it's good. Most people will enjoy this game. It tries to do some innovative things. It may have a few flaws that hinder the gaming experience, but for the most part, people will enjoy it. It'll be fun. Probably a good game you want to pick up unless your budget's tight or you're not a fan of a certain series. So if you just have some money to spend, maybe pick up a game that has a 7. A 6 I consider an okay game. It's very meh. It won't do anything incredibly innovative or groundbreaking, but there's some fun gameplay. Maybe it's more of the same, but they do it in a fun way. It'll be a relatively tight game. I'd say most people, maybe 50-50, will enjoy it. So like 50% of people might enjoy it, and it'll be worth picking up if you've got some extra money. But there will be flaws in the game that hinder the experience, maybe even frustrate you a little bit, but for the most part, it'll be good. A 5 denotes a game that is subpar. We're starting to get into kind of more negative reviews when you talk about 5 and below. A 5 is subpar. It's not quite what you'd expect from an industry standard for a game or product. It's very lackluster, whether it's generic or there's some gameplay element that kind of breaks it, or there's bugs or something. It's just not quite what you're looking for. You probably want to stay away from this unless you're really into whatever series it's from, or you're really into the concept of it. You should probably stay away from it. There will be a few people who enjoy this kind of game, but not many. A 4 out of 10 denotes a game that is bad. We're starting to get negative now. A bad game would be a 4. It tries to do something, but it either just fails, or there's just not enough good in there to outweigh the bad. There might be some game-breaking flaws in it. There will definitely be things that hinder the experience and frustrate you. A game like this should probably be avoided unless you're a die-hard fan of a series or you just really need some time to waste, but this denotes a very bad game. A 3 is terrible. I would consider this a terrible game if it is a 3. It will have some game-breaking glitches in it. It probably won't be any fun. I would recommend everybody to stay away from a game of 3 or below. Even if you're a die-hard fan of the series, it's probably not a game you can actually play. It might be broken in some way. There's really little to no redeeming qualities here. A 2 is awful. Just awful. A 2 denotes a score that is just going to frustrate you and make you want to break keyboards or controllers. Game-breaking flaws run rampant through games like this. I mean, there probably won't be a story or a very shitty story. It's basically a waste of time. These games should not be even considered to be bought, in my opinion. And, or if in the case of a TV show, watched, just don't even bother with these. And finally, the king of all shit. A score of 1. As you can see, I'm so angry even thinking about what a game of 1 would be like. I didn't even bother to really put a lot of effort into drawing anything for this animation. But a 1 is just the pinnacle of a piece of shit. If there is anything more rare than a 10 that I will give a game, it is a 1. A 1 denotes a game that is so bad, it will actually insult you intellectually, from a gameplay standpoint. If you paid any money for a game with a 1, you will most likely be raging, breaking controllers, throwing small children out of windows. This game will piss you off. You will need to bury this game in landfills, burn it, like buy more copies of the game and burn them just to feel satisfied from how much you hate a game with a 1 score. And yeah, that basically sums up the rating system. Now, just for some basic rules, what I consider average. A lot of people who do reviews and rating say, "Oh, a 5 is an average game," and I don't agree with that because I see people who say, "Oh, a 5 is an average game for me," and then the average score of their reviews is like a 7. That doesn't denote an average game. An average game is something I would consider average of an industry standard. So when you buy games, you kind of expect a certain quality from a game. So an average score would not be a 5 if you're giving most games a 7 or an 8. And your average review score is like a 7 or an 8. The average would be a 7 or 8, right? So that's kind of what I'm going for. Most of the games I've played, I give somewhere between a 6 and a 10. So I'm going to say an average game in today's market will probably drift somewhere between a 7 and an 8. So anything below a 7 is probably below average, and anything above 8 is probably above average, unless specified in a review. Or an 8, I will give an 8 an above average score. So it's either average or slightly above. But yeah, that's just kind of my review, my thoughts on the whole average number thing. I will probably be dividing each of my reviews into several different sections. So for instance, if it was a game, I'm going to split it into graphics, sound, story, gameplay, stuff like that, and then I'll kind of go through each of them separately and at the end give a final score. So yeah, that's kind of just the basics of the reviews that are going to be happening on this channel. So yeah, can't wait to get started on them, or if I already am started on them. But yeah, just some basic rules and definitions for anybody watching reviews on my channel. Alright.